Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's session, which we are going to be doing the eligibility process for sub-regions. Before I start, does anyone participating in today's session does not have a PMRS account? If so, please share in the chat. So we will share the new registration link and also some PMRS navigation training videos, so which will help you in getting started. And also the questions, feel free to type it in as we go through the session. We will address all of them to the end in a Q&A session. Again, today's training is going to be what you will need in order to complete submissions for federal eligibility for sub-regions, and also responsible charge qualification process along with that resolution process. So PMRS is a project-centric. For each sub-region, there should be a project. So we will set up those 26 projects to start with when we go live, and we will share that information with you. So the eligibility recertification, which is what you have in a paper copy that is being submitted, attachment 3, will be initiated in each of those respective sub-region project that is designated in PMRS. So eligibility assessment process, when we created, what you are submitting in paper copy, we made that electronic. It's pretty much the same. So we are going to go through how that you can submit electronically is what we are going to go through. So once the division office initiate the eligibility process, you will see that the process will be sent to. So what I will be doing is just going through overall the process of workflow, and then we will go in detail in each of these steps, what happens. So this is where the division office will initiate the eligibility recertification process for sub-regions, and then comes to AECOM, which is a consulted step. This is where the responsible charge qualification process will be assigned for each responsible charge that will be undertaking the federal project must submit. So they could be, if it's more than one, 2 process will be initiated and you must be submitting 2 of them. Along with that, the consultant from AECOM will also send the process to submit the eligibility form. This is where that step is. In a minute, we will go through in detail all the sections, what need to be submitted and how it can be. Once that is submitted to consultant review, which is here, again, it will be going to AECOM consultant review. Once they review and submit for district office review and approvals, this is where those steps are. As the process is coming to district office, there will be a resolution process that is spawned. As you see in the process, anytime with these orange color rectangles, which means the process is being spawned. For those of you who are familiar with the local aid agreement execution process, it's pretty similar to that process, but we will go through that as well in our today's session. Once the district office approvals are done, it will go to the division project manager, which is here. And once division project program manager concurs, it local aid director signs. Once that is done, you will be receiving a notification. But who will receive this notification? On LPA side, it's clerk, presiding officer, project manager, responsible charge on AECOM consultant, and then on a division side, division program manager, and districts, assistant project manager, and the district manager. So you will all receive, and as we go along, once we complete this, we will share the notification how it's going to look like. Again, whenever the process is in that step, it's outlined at the blue. So that's why the process right now, what we are going to go through is staged in here. Just for the sake of time, we actually stage the process in LPA PM completes eligibility so that we can go through each of those sections in detail. Again, I want to make a mention, when we go through this process, you will see the form is pre-filled. Again, when we go live and the process comes to you in this step, the form will not be pre-filled. You will need to do that, but just for training purposes, we did that. So with that said, I will hand off to Frank Inverso from AECOM.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm going to share my screen and go through the federal aid eligibility process that is now in the PMRS platform. And this is the training for the federal aid eligibility for counties and subregions in New Jersey in receipt of federal aid local funds. This is required for every 3 years, and also the responsible charge, we'll go through that, is required to attend training every 3 years. Okay, initially, the LPA, the county, the subregion will have to read and acknowledge understanding of these federal aid projects. These procedures are comprehensive. We ask that any changes that you may have, you note for our consideration based on your knowledge of the local lead federal aid process. So when we actually begin to work with you, we'll go through all these. You'll need to acknowledge that you've read them all and understand them and acknowledge them in the PMRS form. There'll be appendices that will be automatically attached to the procedures once we complete that section on the PMRS platform. So let me run through the Federal Aid Highway Program application. It's similar to the paper copies that we used to do. And this requires that we note the date of the previous certification and the beginning of this new certification. The next section is simply the local public agency information, and provide that. The next section, your CFO and accounting office can help with providing an audit, providing your unique entity identifier number, and the date of your most recent A133 single audit. And you could browse the computer and upload a copy if you need to. However, we recommend that you provide a link to your website where the audit can be found. And if there are any major findings in that audit, they would need to be noted here, and any corrective action that is necessary will be explained here. The next section, titled Organization, requires the county and subregions to provide 2 organizational charts, one for the staff working on your federal aid projects, and one for the overall structure of the county and LPA, from the Board of Commissioners on down. And those organizational charts can be uploaded in this section here by browsing and attaching. The next section covers project administration. So these will be the staff assigned to federal aid projects who will be performing the following functions. And we've populated this with some typical staffing scenarios. For instance, the environmental document will be started by the design engineer and the responsible charge with assistance from NJDOT Bureau of Environmental Program Resources. The responsible charge will be responsible for that, and any other sub-region staff that may assist that's familiar with the environmental process. Similar to public outreach, The design engineer will coordinate that along with the responsible charge and contract with a community relations firm if necessary. The next section covers the plan specifications and estimate approval, and that process is completed by the design engineer and the city or county engineer and responsible charge, the accounting office, and any other sub-region staff as necessary. Advertisement of bids, typically the clerk and the county engineer. Could be the business administrator, depending on how your sub-region or county is structured. Similarly, bid reviews and analysis must be performed by the city and county engineer along with the design engineer. And could be your accounting and CFO could look at the numbers, and your QPA could help as well if you have one. Award of the contract is typically done by the county administrator, board of commissioners, clerk, the CFO, and again, depending on how your county or sub-region is structured, you would include those names. Execution is similar to award. Again, depending on how you actually do that award, you will note that here. Right-of-way acquisition is done by the design engineer identifying any need for actual right-of-way property or any need for easements, rights of entry, material storage locations, things of that nature would be identified. And then an agreement would need to be made with that private property owner with the assistance of the responsible charge, and the county administrator and attorney would draw up a agreement with the property owner. Utility coordination, again, the design engineer along with the city or county Department of Public Works would assist with that process. And the design contract compliance, this will be the actual county or sub-region staff only reviewing that the design is complied with. Similar with construction contract administration. Construction inspection, at this point in time, the county or sub-region may not know who that is, so we typically put in a CMCI firm to be determined with a resident engineer and inspectors, along with the assistance of the county inspection staff and responsible charge. Approval of material sources goes through the designer, the responsible charge, QPA, and anyone else who could assist with ensuring that materials are indeed available for the job. Source documents need to be maintained for 7 years in hard copy, and that is typically performed by the construction project management team, the responsible charge, maybe the clerk or business administrator or someone in a clerical role at the county or sub-region could assist with collecting and storing those documents. Buy America, ensuring that all materials utilized for the project are manufactured in the United States, is the responsibility of the design engineer, the inspection team, the responsible charge, and could be someone like the QPA or a clerk that could help with ensuring that those Buy America certificates are indeed obtained and filed. Sampling and testing of any material, any concrete or asphalt that needs to be tested, is obviously the inspection team, the resident engineer inspectors, the county construction inspectors, and a testing lab to be determined at this point. Unless the county or sub-region has a testing facility, they would contract with a testing lab to help perform those tasks. Any contract changes would come through the inspection team that identified any changes in the field. They would go through with the responsible charge, review those changes, and get those up to the sub-region or county council and commission for approval through NJDOT and Federal Highway. Contract schedule is prepared with the responsible charge in the county along with the design firm, and it's maintained with by the inspection staff and resident engineer along with the responsible charge and any county assistant staff. So to ensure that the schedule is being maintained and completion dates will be met. Disposition of change orders. So any changes in the field not anticipated need to begin with a field order form that is completed by the resident engineer and the responsible charge, forwarded to DOT, and then ultimately to the county commission for approval. Design and inspection consultant, contract administration. during the construction phase. So administration of any contracts need to be performed solely by county and subregion staff. Work zone traffic, the design of the traffic control will be done by the designer and the responsible charge. And the city or county engineer will review and approve that. And inspection staff will ensure that during construction, the work zone is safe and there are no hazards. And we ask that someone from the police traffic office or sheriff's office traffic officer assist with the day-to-day of traffic control, ensuring there's no hazards. ADA construction verifications are done by the inspection team, the responsible charge, and if you have a contract inspector person, construction inspector, they would assist with that as well. The next section covers our non-discrimination and civil rights compliance. These staff that will be distributed throughout these tasks are typically human resources tasks, and depending on the county or subregion staffing, it could be a non-discrimination policy assistant or someone that is familiar with civil rights and non-discrimination. So we can help you to populate that as well. The next section covers contract administration, describing how the LPA will administer design and construction contracts. This is some typical language. Upon completion of these training sessions, we will get you copies of this so you could have it for your files to work through. So this is some language that typically counties and subregions provide, that an engineer will be utilized providing construction engineering services for each federal project. So every federal project has to have a dedicated inspection team and a dedicated responsible charge. And the next section describes the administration of multiple concurrent federal design projects. Similar with the contract administration above, you will need to have an inspection team and a responsible charge for each project. The next section covers construction inspection, specifically describing how your construction operations or work activities for inspection. And this is some language that we typically use. Each project will be assigned a full-time inspector to monitor and record all activities. And a lot of this information that goes into these sections is more comprehensive in the procedures. So throughout this document, you'll be acknowledging that you'll review and utilize those administrative procedures. If LPA staff will be used, they will be noted here as the inspection staff, and they need to have the Rutgers Highway Gate inspection training for federal aid projects in order to qualify to inspect a federal aid project. Okay. And if consultant staff is going to be used, they need to be noted there. Multiple concurrent project and inspectors. So the county personnel from the consulting engineering firm will be selected for each project to provide construction engineering services. If multiple concurrent projects are running, each project will be assigned a full-time inspector. And then in the case of the inspectors not being present on any given day, the county or subregion must designate someone to step in and provide the inspection services for that day. That needs to be noted here. Traffic control, describe how you'll manage traffic control and work zone safety. Typically, we mentioned that the design needs to be prepared in accordance with NJDOT's MPT plans, work zone safety, and the MUTCD. And an emergency contact in the case of any hazards that need to be eliminated must be provided here. The next section covers, covers consultant services for the procedure for the administration and inspection of federal aid highway projects. So this is acknowledging that you've read and understand the procedures that are included here. And again, no changes can be made to them. If you do have any recommendations, please provide those and we will consider them. And then in particular, this models after the procedures. So you need to acknowledge that you will administer the project in accordance with the procedures for these specific disciplines, procurement of professional services for design and inspection, Buy Build America provisions will be adhered to, source documents will be stored and maintained for 7 years, construction inspection will be administered in accordance with the procedures. All the responsible charge duties are listed in the procedures. You're agreeing to utilize all those procedures. Any DBE or ESBE goals will be adhered to, if any. Changes in the contract are outlined in the procedures. They must be adhered to. And developing and maintaining a schedule is outlined, as well as liquidated damages. If the project should be delayed due to the fault of the contractor, there could be monetary liquidated damages assessed, and they will be included in the specifications. In association with these items, we will need the following documents to be included. A sample RFP for design, a sample RFP for construction inspection, and we'll review those to ensure that they meet federal guidelines with all the pay-to-play language and things of that nature. We will provide you with scoring forms that you can utilize. They're guides only. You need to customize those for your subregion or county. This is how you score design and inspection proposals typically on federal projects. And we also need consultant performance ratings. Once the design is complete, a rating of the design consultant will be prepared by the county or subregion and submitted to DOT for their data. And that will be done for design and inspection. You will need to provide a formal signed non-discrimination policy statement with all current language. We could provide you with that language if you do not have it. We've been using it for the past few years, so a lot of you do have that, but we will provide it if necessary. And also a sample field order form, which is our Appendix E of the procedures that will preempt any change orders. So any issues that arise in the field, extra material, unforeseen conditions will be evaluated for funding, federal funding. Contract management. Have there been, so we would have seen your contract templates 3 years ago. So we are asking here if there's been any modifications to those. If there were, you would explain those changes and provide the language here and provide us with a new template. We also need a sample professional services agreement issued between the county subregion and the consultant, as well as a sample construction contract that is issued between the county subregion and the construction contractor. The next section is pay to play. This language must be included in all advertisements that the proposals are being solicited through a fair and open process in accordance with NJSA 1944 and with all the campaign contribution language as appropriate. So if your contracts do not include this language or conflict with this statement, you will need to provide us with that language and we will review it. Right-of-way acquisition. If there's any right-of-way that's required for the project, the county subregion will need to prepare a set of right-of-way acquisition procedures consistent with the Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970. We will review that. A lot of the counties and subregions do already have these procedures, so we would review those. If not, we can assist you with the with how to prepare those, and we'll review those. And then you would upload those here. These next sections are going to cover the workload of the county and subregion. So this is federal aid workload that is currently authorized, that's in progress. So the method that the PMR platform provides to populate this area is there's a template you can upload. It's an Excel file, and it'll be consistent with these columns, and you could provide as many projects as you want, and you would import those. And you could also have the ability to type them in manually here, and add those to the list. The next section covers your programmed federal aid workload. So any projects that are upcoming in the program, we would need to see those here. They are uploaded consistent with the method above. The next section asks if you have any projects that were authorized in the past 3 years that have unsatisfactory ratings. And we don't see a lot of those, but if that did happen, you would provide those here. The next section covers billing history, list all federal aid projects that have no expenditures for more than 12 months for the immediately preceding 3 fiscal years. If that's the case, you have a project that fits that description, you would provide it there. So, as I said, I acted as the county and sub-region here and completed all this. And once you've done that, you would go to the action buttons, and the only option here is submit. You would take that action, and then you will get notifications that you submitted it. And we would go back to the main PMRS screen. You'll be assigned a project for your specific county or subregion. And it's not really a project, it's just a placeholder that we need to incorporate in PMRS so that you have the ability to get into PMRS and utilize the system. So then we would go back. So that is now in the consultant review phase. So I would go in here, you've submitted this to us. I would go in and I would review it and approve it. So let me go through, let me see if there's anything I missed. If there's any questions down here. Yes. So if sometimes we have responsible charges that their certification has expired. We would allow them to continue working pending training. And then I would just put no comments in here. And I would take the action of submitting this. If I needed to revise it, we have that option as well. I would send it back. However, we're going to submit this for the sake of the training. I'll take action. And then as you'll see in the procedures, the appendices should have been populated in the procedures, which are here. And you would go through the procedures, and at the end, you would see that they will populate the appendices, hopefully. There. Okay. The next item we'll go through is the responsible charge form. And that's FARC 3. So each of your responsible charge candidates will be responsible for completing a responsible charge recertification every 3 years. You'll need to go to Rutgers CATE website, monitor that. We will provide you with notifications of when training is. We will also notify you when your training is due to expire, about 3 to 4 months prior. And you will need to retake the training. Anyone who's going to act as responsible charge on a federal aid project needs to fill out one of these forms. First section says simply the information of the candidate, any federal aid experience that this candidate had as a responsible charge, and they are uploaded consistent with the federal aid eligibility form. If you wanted to add it manually, you could do that there for federal aid experience. Workload of the responsible charge, we want to see how much work they have. That would go here, and it's imported the same way, and you can add an item there. Training, responsible charge training, as I mentioned, is required every 3 years. So you would put your training certificate in here that you received from Rutgers CATE, the date of the training, and the location. Any other training that you may have had goes into these sections here. If they're not there, you can add one. And then this is an acknowledgement that you understand that your certification needs to be renewed every 3 years. You'll agree to that. If there is any projects that you managed as responsible charge that were found non-compliant, you would add that in here. And these are some of the definitions. There's a comprehensive list of definitions and roles and responsibilities of the responsible charge in the procedures. However, these are just an outline of some of them. So then once you've done that, I filled this out as you, the county or subregion, you would sign that. And then us as the NJDOT consultant would review it. And let me refresh. And remember to save. When you're filling out this documentation, please remember to save it frequently. So once we completed the federal aid eligibility and the responsible charge, our resolution is populated. So each subregion county needs to provide a resolution of support indicating that they will follow the procedures throughout the next 3-year term. Now it moves to us as the local aid consultant. We'll review it. So I'll go back in as the local aid consultant and make sure everything's good. And I'm going to approve this. If necessary, I could revise it, send it back for revisions. However, in this instance, I am going to take action to approve it finally. And then close this. And now, as you'll see, you'll get notifications via email that it's in your step. Right now, it's moving to the next step here. Takes a little while. There's a lot of data. Okay, now our 3 documents or 3 platforms, I'll say, are populated. We have the Federal Aid Eligibility Form, FAE 831. We have the resolution that Banajah will go over. And we have the responsible charge form that needs to be completed for each responsible charge candidate. Okay, so now I am the local public agency responsible charge, or that's going to submit this. Okay, now that it was completed, reviewed, and signed by the county or subregion responsible charge candidate, it would move on to NJDOT's local aid district office for review, as well as the federal aid eligibility assessment form has also been completed, approved by us as the NJDOT consultant, and moved on to the local aid district office step.
Good morning, everyone.
David.
So before I continue with these processes, I want to jump back into the eligibility assessment really quick, just to show something, because we have a few conditionals here that have to deal with the other processes. So if I go to the workflow, we can see that currently the eligibility assessment, it's here. It's with the local aid district office, assistant project managers, and project managers. Now, as we move the step forward, there are going to be a few conditionals. One checks to see if the resolution process that had been spawned has been completed, and the other one checks to see if the responsible charge process has been completed. So we will not be able to fully complete the eligibility assessment until those 2 processes have been completed. So with that in mind, I'm first going to go and I'm going to complete the resolution process. Now, for time's sake, we staged the resolution process a few steps ahead. I'll go through and I'll show where it originates. So here in the workflow, we can see that firstly, this is spawned in once the consultant submits the eligibility assessment over to local aid's court. Then it'll be in the LPA resolution. There are no required fields here, but if they want, they can submit the number there. And also, once it moves forward from the LPA resolution step, it goes to the presiding officer's signed step, where upon taking that signed action, the presiding officer's signature will be captured. But currently, this process is in a clerk step, so we will move it forward from there. So here in the clerk step, we can see that there are a few required fields. They will have to enter in the resolution number, the resolution adoption date, the approved proof of resolution. Now this is a document drop field where they could simply drop that document. And then finally, the presiding officer title can be entered here. Now this field, it's open because it might be something like the borough administrator or mayor, and depending on what that title is, they'll be able to put that correct title there to be captured. As we can see below from the previous step, the presiding officer's signature had been captured. And again, that signature was captured when the action of the step was taken. And here, currently, the clerk's signature area is empty, and that signature will be captured once I take the action to move this step forward. So seeing that all this information has been entered, I will simply see, and again, if the presiding officer's signature needs to be corrected, if there is a revision step action here if needed, but for now, I will take the signed action here. Now that the signed action has been taken, we see that it's moved forward to the assistant project manager review step. So I will open the resolution process back up. And we can see that there is no data to be entered here. This is simply a review, just to ensure that all the information has been entered correctly. Again, if revisions are required, this can be revised back to the clerk's court. But if not, if there is no revision necessary, I will take the reviewed action and move this forward to the project manager step. Now with the local aid project manager, this is one final review step in the resolution again, just to ensure that all the data and information has been entered correctly and adequately to our specifications. If any further revisions are needed, that is an ability that we have to revise it back. But if not, I could take the approved action here and fully close out and complete this resolution process. So I will do that. All right, and we see now that the resolution is in the closed status and in the finished step, meaning that it is complete, and we can move past that first conditional. But seeing that there is a second conditional, checking to see if there is at least one active responsible charge on the process, I will go through and I will complete this FARC process so we can get past that one as well. So currently, it is in the local aid district office review for assistant project managers and project managers step. So we'll go in and we'll see what that looks like. Again, this is simply a review step to ensure that all the responsible charge information has been entered correctly and adequately to our specifications. As we see, all these fields have been filled in. There is a recommendation box here. It is not required for me, but if I had any comments to revise and say they would be here, or the assistant project manager or project manager, they would put those comments in this box. For now, I'll put no comment. As we could see, we could either revise or move it forward, and I will move this process forward for now. The process has now moved forward to the division program manager step. This is again another review step just to ensure that all the information had been entered correctly and adequately, and to review any comments sent by the assistant project managers or project managers. So again, there are no editable fields, it's simply a review. And as we can see previously from the recommendations, that there was no comment, and then when those recommendations were made. But as there is no comment, I will simply concur with this and move it forward. And as we see after taking that step, that action, the process is now in the closed status, in the finished step, and now we have a responsible charge that is active and has been assigned to the project. So we will be able to complete the eligibility assessment, seeing that these two processes have been completed. So now I will go back and I'll open up the eligibility assessment. And we will see again, this is a review step, just ensuring that all the information has been entered correctly and that there are no further comments. I'll scroll through and I'll see there are no editable fields. Again, if there are any further conditions or concerns, we could enter into this box, but I'll just put no comment here as well. And we have the option to either revise, review, or void the process if necessary. But as we're moving it forward, I will take the reviewed action. Now this process moves forward to the district manager's approval step, where the district manager can again review the information to ensure that everything has been entered correctly and adequately. So we will quickly glance through to see all the fields they've been filled in. No data is missing, and we can scroll to see if there are any comments provided by the project manager or assistant project manager. And we can see here clearly no comments. If there were any comments, we could see them there, and if any revisions were necessary, we would be able to see that. But as there are none, I will simply take the approved action here. Now, as we see, it is in the Division Program Manager step, which is again another review. And we can see here that resolution has been completed. That is something that we've done already. That's good. And because it has been completed, we can move this process forward. So again, I will take that action to move this forward. All right. Now it has moved on to our local aid director. At this point, it has gone past the approvals, and now it is here in this court for our local aid director to sign off on this project. So again, there will be no editable fields, and that signature will be captured when the action is taken to sign. See, no editable fields, and upon taking the signed action, that signature will be captured. So I will sign. And finally, we're in the last step of the eligibility assessment, where the notification letter will be sent out. Again, this is a read-only step, but upon taking that action, the notification will be sent out to the LPAs, to the AECOM's team, and also to our team here at Local Aid, so that we could see when this process has been fully completed and the project is ready to move forward.
So here, if you want to share that attached to, what are the processes that are attached, and then it can be checked what has been completed. In our case, we had only one responsible charge qualification process along with the resolution. So if there were to be multiple, you can see here what has been finished and what has not been. So we just finished our processes. So you can always see, similarly, if you were to go to responsible charge process from here, you will see what would be that parent process it's attached to. So it's attached to the eligibility process. So you can always track here.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Vanaja. So now, once that is seen, I'll go back, and again, if there are any external comments, you have this comment tab here. And also, on the processes themselves, there is this Documents tab. With this Documents tab, you could see overall all the documents that have been attached to the process. So if you ever need to go back and review it, even if the process is in the closed status, you can go back, and by looking at the Documents tab, you can easily access all those documents that have been attached. There is also another place to see the documents that I will show in a second. But here, once I take this send letter to the LPA action, the process will close out, and that is when the notifications will be sent out. Now here, I have a screenshot example of what these notifications will look like. Now they will appear something like this. These will be notifications sent out through email, where you'll see the project name, the name of the process, what the current step is that would be finished for this notification, and then when that step action was taken. So you will be able to know when the process is finished and then be able to act as such and receive that notification. And I believe the roles that receive that notification were mentioned earlier. Now, that second area where you could view the documents for the projects. Now, this would be an area to see all the documents for all these processes, would be in this Documents tab. Now, if you navigate here, and I'll open this up just to make it clear. Now, if I went under Construction, Local Aid, and Federal Eligibility Assessment, Federal Eligibility, you can see that here, neatly diagrammed, we have all the separate documents that were attached or generated for the projects. We see here the admin procedures, some of the different documents that were attached, and you will be able to access all the documents under this Documents tab as well. I'll hand it back over to Frank.
I'm going to share the procedures that are now populated with all of the appendices documents that were included into PMRS. So that would include professional services agreements, consultant evaluation forms, the proposal scoring forms, the sample RFP, and the organizational charts. Let me try to do this so it makes sense. So these are the procedures, and here's our appendices, the organizational charts, sample RFP, and then the scoring and rating forms would be Appendix C. D will be our consultant evaluation forms. A is our sample field order form, which is here. And then F is a sample professional services agreement. And then G would be our Title VI policy statement, non-discrimination policy statement signed. So that would be the completed set of procedures that a resolution would be provided for.